The silverware sparkled beneath warm amber lights as Amara Veldon led her son through the doors of Villa Rosa, the quiet Italian restaurant she had chosen for tonight. She had been here before, fundraising dinners, board celebrations, private investor meetings, but never like this. Tonight she wasn't arriving as the billionaire tech mogul whose empire stretched across 3 continents. She wasn't the visionary whose decisions could turn markets or the negotiator whose voice could shift global summits. Tonight she was simply a mother attempting, once again, to make up for the time she'd lost. 11-year-old Lucas trailed a step behind her, his posture careful, almost apologetic, the way it always was when he wasn't sure how much space he was allowed to take up. Their relationship had grown quieter over the months. Not broken, never broken, but tense in ways she pretended not to notice, though she felt it every day. The way he waited before speaking, checking her face first. The way he didn't ask her to join his school activities anymore. The way he stopped showing her his robotics projects even though she had always been his biggest cheerleader, before the meetings piled up, before the board expanded, before her hours stretched impossibly thin. Tonight was supposed to be a reset. Just the 2 of them. Dinner without phones, without assistants interrupting, without her scanning for emails between bites. She had promised Lucas an evening he could hold on to. But even before the appetizers arrived, she sensed his attention drifting. Not in boredom. She knew that look. This was different. A kind of soft longing, a searching. His fingers stopped drumming the table. His eyes lifted, focusing over her shoulder toward the far corner of the restaurant. When she turned slightly, she saw him. A man in a faded gray t-shirt and worn jeans, balancing 2 plates on his arms. He wasn't a server, she could tell that instantly. No uniform, no name tag, no rehearsed smile. Just a tired but steady presence, moving with the kind of careful precision that came from juggling more responsibilities than any person reasonably should. His dark hair was slightly messy, as if he'd run his fingers through it too many times. His forearms were strong and lightly scarred, his movements practiced, almost protective. He set the plates down in front of the little girl at his table. She had curly brown hair tied in a ponytail and was coloring a bright sunflower with intense concentration. The moment he leaned down to speak to her, the child's face burst into pure sunlight. Her smile reached every corner of the room. He brushed marinara from her cheek with a napkin, snapped a picture of her drawing, and whispered something that made her laugh so loudly the couple beside them jumped. He laughed with her, warm, full, unguarded. And Lucas watched them as if the scene were something he desperately missed but couldn't quite name. "Mom," Lucas said softly, barely audible over the gentle violin music weaving through the restaurant. "That's him." "Who?" she asked. Lucas hesitated, pulling the sleeves of his sweater over his palms. "The man who helped me at school. The one who fixed my robot when it broke." Her breath went thin. She remembered the day clearly. Lucas's project showcase, the one she had been late to because an emergency meeting had run longer than expected. She'd rushed into the school gym that evening only to find Lucas sitting quietly beside a repaired robotics model. He wouldn't tell her who helped him. She assumed a teacher. She didn't ask again. "That's him," she whispered. Lucas nodded. "He stayed with me until you came." He didn't have to. Shame rose slowly in her chest like cold water. She looked at the man again, saw the exhaustion in his shoulders, the unwavering gentleness in the way he attended to his daughter. Ethan, she would later learn. A single dad who looked like he hadn't taken a real break in years. She didn't think. She stood. Her chair scraped the floor, quiet yet jarring. "Mom," Lucas asked, startled. "Come with me," she murmured. She didn't know exactly why she was walking across the restaurant. Gratitude, possibly. Guilt, definitely. Curiosity, undeniably. And maybe, just maybe, something in the way her son looked at Ethan, a brightness she hadn't seen in months, a light that stirred something painful and hopeful in her. When Ethan looked up and saw her approaching, he straightened instinctively, protective reflex flickering through his eyes. His daughter paused her coloring, peering curiously at the fancy lady approaching. "Hi," Amara said, softer than intended. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Ethan blinked. No, not at all." Lucas stepped forward, half hiding behind her. Ethan's expression transformed the second he saw him. "Robot car Lucas," he said warmly. "Hey, buddy." Lucas's shy smile broke through like dawn. Amara froze. Ethan remembered him. She searched his face for any sign of annoyance or expectation. There was none. Only kindness. Only the quiet familiarity of someone who had stepped up for her son when she hadn't. "I never thanked you," she said, her voice tightening. "For helping him that day." Ethan shrugged, modest but sincere. Any dad would have done the same. Something about the way he said it, simple, unassuming, true, made emotion twist sharply inside her. Because not every parent would have. Not every parent did. The little girl tugged at Ethan's sleeve. "Daddy, who is she?" Ethan chuckled. "Someone very important, Peanut." "Not tonight," Amara said gently. "Tonight I'm just a mom." Ethan held her gaze. Steady, unwavering. He didn't flinch, didn't shrink, didn't puff up with false confidence. He met her eyes as if she were just another person, not a billionaire whose name topped global lists. It was grounding, disarming, strange. "I'm Ethan," he said finally. "This is my daughter, Mia." "It's nice to meet you both," she said, then turned to Lucas. "Do you want to show Mia your sketchbook?" Lucas nodded hesitantly, pulling out the worn book he'd brought with him. As the kids huddled together, giggling softly, something unknotted in her chest. She wasn't prepared for the next words that left her mouth, words that shocked even her. "Would you and your daughter like to join us for dinner?" Ethan froze. Completely, utterly froze. And in that moment, the entire restaurant seemed to pause with him. Part 2. Ethan wasn't a man easily shaken. He'd handled overnight shifts, 2 jobs at once, last-minute school calls, fevers, tantrums, bills, and broken plumbing. But nothing in his universe had prepared him for a billionaire, one of the most powerful women in the country, standing in front of him and asking if he wanted to join her for dinner. Are you sure?" he asked carefully. "It's your night with your son." "I'm sure," she said. And the way she said it, soft, almost pleading, left no room for doubt. "But I don't. Daddy, please." Mia jumped in before he could finish. "I want to sit with Lucas. He's nice." Lucas blushed immediately and nearly dropped his sketchbook. Ethan exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. His instincts, his pride, his caution, warred with the look on Mia's face and the quiet hope on Lucas's. At last, he nodded. "All right, Peanut, if you're sure." Mia squealed. Lucas smiled wider than she'd seen in months. And within minutes, the tables were pushed together, silverware rearranged, and the 4 of them formed a new little circle that felt far warmer than any of the elegant gatherings she had attended in years. The conversation began, awkwardly, polite, careful. But kids have a way of dismantling walls adults don't even realize they've built. Lucas showed Mia his drawings. Mia told Lucas about her attempts to train a pigeon to deliver notes. It didn't work, he pooped on the letter. Ethan laughed, telling a story about Mia, helping him paint a room and accidentally coloring half the carpet green. Amara found herself laughing too, really laughing, the sort that loosens your ribs and shakes off years of accumulated tension. Her son watched her laugh with something like wonder. That alone nearly broke her heart. Slowly, subtly, the atmosphere softened. The kids leaned into their own world of doodles and jokes, and she found herself talking to Ethan as if they had known each other far longer than the space of a single evening. "Lucas admires you," she said quietly when the kids were whispering to each other. "He remembered what you did for him." Ethan's brows lifted. "I didn't do much. You stayed," she corrected. "Sometimes that's everything." Ethan studied her for a moment. "He's a really good kid," he said. "He just needs someone who sees him." The words pierced deeper than he intended. She swallowed. "I'm trying," she said, barely above a whisper. "Sometimes trying is enough," he replied. "And sometimes it isn't," she murmured. Ethan didn't comment, but he looked at her with a gentleness she hadn't felt in years, one that didn't judge her, didn't pity her, didn't expect anything from her. The kind of gentleness that made her want to speak honestly. Dangerously honestly. They talked about their kids. About work. About things she never had the time, or the courage, to admit aloud. She learned he worked 3 jobs to stay afloat. Learned he'd been raising Mia alone since she was 4. Learned his life was held together by grit, duct tape, and more love than most families would ever know. And when dessert came, something quiet and astonishing happened. Lucas slid the bright red cherry from his plate toward Mia. "You can have it," he said shyly. Amara's breath trembled. Lucas never shared food, never. Mia beamed and popped the cherry into her mouth. Ethan blinked rapidly, overwhelmed by the small but meaningful gesture. Something shifted then. Something delicate, invisible, sacred. The evening wound down eventually. Reality crept back. Ethan checked the time and winced. "We should get going. I've got an early morning shift." "You work early?" she asked. "And late," he admitted. "And in between." She stared at him, admiration blooming unexpectedly in her chest. Not the admiration she felt for ambitious CEOs or strategic innovators. Something softer, respectful, human. When they stepped outside, the night was cool and quiet, the streetlights casting soft pools of gold on the pavement. Lucas hugged Mia quickly. Mia hugged him longer. "Can we eat together again?" Mia asked. Lucas glanced at his mother. Ethan glanced at her too. Amara inhaled slowly. "Yes," she said. "Absolutely yes." Ethan nodded. "Thank you. For tonight." "No," she said truthfully. "Thank you." Then, acting on an instinct she didn't recognize, an instinct pulled from a place she had long forgotten existed, she took a tiny step closer. Not invading his space, but bridging it. Ethan. His name was unfamiliar on her tongue yet felt strangely right. He held her gaze, steady, sincere. "Would you ever consider," she paused, breath shaking slightly, "letting me be part of this? Of the world you and Mia and Lucas share? Not as the billionaire, not as the CEO." Her voice softened, trembled. "Just as someone who wants to learn how to be better." Ethan froze. Not in fear, but in astonishment. No one had ever spoken to him like that. No billionaire. No parent from school. No one. And as Lucas and Mia exchanged shy goodbyes beside them, the night air hung still, holding the moment gently between them. A beginning neither expected. A beginning both needed. A beginning that felt like the start of something real.